Christmas used to mean something different when I was a kid. It meant lights and warmth, my mom humming along to some old Nat King Cole record, and the sweet smell of cinnamon rolls baking in the oven. But somewhere along the way, that magic got buried under layers of comparison, backhanded compliments, and awkward silence. I'm Marcus, 34, single, and self-employed. I run a small graphic design business out of my apartment, not flashy, not lucrative, but it pays the bills and lets me live a life that's mine. That alone, apparently, makes me the family failure. My brother Evan, 2 years younger and a real estate agent with a booming Instagram presence, is the golden child. He wears flashy watches and drives a Tesla, always parks it right at the curb so everyone at the family gatherings can't miss it. My sister Nicole, she married some tech guy who made a lot of money in crypto and now spends her days posting her kids' piano recitals and organic snack ideas online. Me? I show up, hand out carefully chosen gifts, and pray no one asks what I'm doing these days. This Christmas, the annual dinner was hosted at my parents' place, like always. It was a tradition: roast beef, too many side dishes, that weird gelatin salad my aunt still insists is classic, and a giant, overly decorated tree under which we all placed our gifts. I had spent hours picking mine out. Thoughtful things. A rare record for Dad, a signed cookbook for Mom, a fancy decanter Evan had once admired, a designer scarf Nicole had mentioned in passing last year. Even the nieces and nephews got personalized gift boxes I'd hand-wrapped with little illustrations on the tags. When I arrived, nobody even looked up. "Hey," I mumbled, holding a bag in each hand. Evan glanced over, gave a half-wave, then returned to his conversation about rental markets. Mom greeted me with a distracted, "Oh, Marcus, you made it," like I was the UPS guy dropping off a package. I smiled, nodded, and set the gifts under the tree. I told myself it was fine. They're just distracted. It's the holidays. Everyone's tense. But the night unfolded the way it always did, only this time worse. Nicole spent dinner loudly praising her kids for their advanced reading levels while side-eyeing my empty chair across the table. Evan regaled everyone with a story about closing a $2 million deal and how the buyer had flown in from Dubai. Mom kept asking if I was still working on that artsy thing, like I was finger painting in a basement somewhere. Every attempt I made to join a conversation got cut off by someone redirecting it back to Evan's success or Nicole's parenting. And then it happened. My father stood up, clinking his glass for a toast. Everyone quieted, eyes shining in the candlelight. The only sound was the fire crackling softly behind him. "I just want to say how proud I am," he began. "This year has been incredible. Watching our family grow, watching our kids achieve such amazing things." He turned to Evan. "Evan, your accomplishments this year have been extraordinary. You're building something that matters. And Nicole, raising those bright young stars. We're all just so lucky." He paused, lifted his glass, and added, "Let's raise a toast to the children who actually made something of their lives." The words hung in the air, sharp and cold. I sat perfectly still, trying to smile like it didn't gut me. Nicole clinked her glass against Evan's, both grinning like this was some awards show. My name had never even crossed his lips. Then Evan looked straight at me and let out a small snort. "You should be grateful we even let you come, man. This is family stuff." A few people chuckled. Not loudly, but enough. My jaw tightened. I glanced around the table. No one said anything. Not even Mom. She just sipped her drink and stared at her plate like the salmon needed her full attention. I stared down at my plate, barely touched. The gift tags I'd so carefully written flashed in my mind. To Dad, thanks for the music. To Evan, congrats on the Tesla. To Nicole, for cozy mornings and good taste. My stomach twisted. I stood up slowly. No one noticed at first. Then Nicole asked, "You okay?" I didn't answer. I walked to the coat rack, took my jacket, and paused at the tree. All the gifts I'd brought were still there, glimmering beneath the lights. Dozens of others were stacked around them, all shiny packaging and department store bows. And then I remembered the one I hadn't placed yet, the one still in my coat pocket. I turned back, looked at them all, laughing, toasting, pretending like this wasn't some carefully orchestrated humiliation, and said nothing. I just walked out. The cold slapped me in the face as I stepped into the night. Snow had started falling again, soft and quiet. I slid into my car, shut the door, and exhaled. My hands trembled, not from the cold, from the restraint, from the years of swallowing every slight, every joke at my expense, every omission. But tonight, I had left them one final surprise. Something they wouldn't even notice until they tore into their gifts the next morning. And when they did, Well, let's just say Christmas morning would feel a little different this year. I didn't sleep that night. Back in my apartment, the walls felt too quiet, too clean, an eerie contrast to the chaos still likely unfolding hours away at my parents' place. I poured myself a drink, turned on the dim fairy lights strung across my windows, and sat on the couch staring at the fireplace screensaver on my TV. The world outside was hushed, blanketed in snow and silence, but inside me, everything burned. My phone buzzed a few times, mostly group texts. Nicole sending a blurry photo of Evan doing his stupid champagne-sabering trick in the backyard. Mom replying with heart emojis. Dad ignoring my existence altogether, as usual. Not a single person asked where I'd gone. Perfect. I waited. Patiently. The same way I'd waited through years of being the afterthought. The forgotten sibling. The one who chose a hobby over a real job, according to my dad. But I wasn't forgotten this time. Because beneath that tree, mixed in with the shiny wrapped gifts and luxury store bags, was a small, square box wrapped in plain brown paper. No bow, no tag. It looked like an afterthought, but it wasn't. It was deliberate, tucked deep behind the others, placed carefully so that eventually, when enough gifts had been opened, it would catch someone's eye. I knew who it would be. Nicole always played cleanup duty after gifts, carefully sorting through the leftover wrapping in boxes like she was managing a corporate inventory room. It would start as confusion. A plain brown box? No label? Someone must have forgotten. Curiosity would win. They'd open it. Inside, they'd find 20 glossy, high-quality prints, custom-designed and professionally bound. Each one looked like a page from a magazine. Headlines in bold, captions below, and above all, receipts. Because if there's one thing I learned from being the unsuccessful one in the family, it's how to observe. And I had receipts for everything. The front page? A photograph of Evan standing in front of a house, smiling for Instagram. Captioned, "Client review. Said this home was a legal nightmare and left within a week. Evan refused to refund the deposit." I had the Reddit thread, the screenshots, the Better Business Bureau complaint. Next, Nicole's husband. One full page dedicated to a Zoom screenshot. He was in a meeting, one I happened to stumble into while designing a presentation for a friend's startup. There he was, pitching my portfolio, graphics I had created, to a potential investor. Word for word. Even the watermark I had embedded into the file, faint but traceable, was still intact. Plagiarism, plain and simple. I documented every moment I had ever been overlooked, and I used it not to whine, but to build. There was a copy of the contract my dad had signed with the developer that Evan introduced him to 2 years ago, the one that led to them losing $80,000 in a failed family investment. A contract I'd reviewed quietly, after the fact, and immediately spotted 3 glaring red flags. Red flags I wasn't asked to find, because why ask the artist, right? Then there were emails, printed copies, Mom's messages to my aunt, calling me a sweet soul, but a bit of a disappointment. Evan forwarding a meme of a guy playing Xbox with the caption, "Marcus at work." Nicole asking my parents privately if they could not hype up Marcus too much in front of the kids. It's confusing when they think doing art is enough. But the crown jewel was a letter. My letter. A letter I had rewritten and rewritten for weeks. Calm, poised, not emotional, just honest. In it, I laid out the truth they never wanted to hear. How I had paid Mom's credit card bill for 8 months straight during Dad's medical leave and never told anyone. How I had designed Nicole's Etsy branding and created her influencer website for free, only for her to turn around and hire someone else for the real work. How I once gave Evan a $5,000 loan during a dry quarter, which he never repaid, and now jokes about like it was a birthday gift. I ended the letter with one line. "You've mistaken my silence for weakness. You won't make that mistake again." And taped to the back of the letter, a small USB drive. Encrypted, of course, but it contained every file, every screenshot, every document they'd just flipped through in physical form, plus a few extras I didn't print. One was a voice message from my dad, accidentally sent to me, where he called me the family stray. Another was an email thread where Nicole asked Evan if I was even mentally stable enough to be included in the family vacation to Maui last year. The same trip they told me they couldn't afford. All of it was there. But the real revenge? The final file on the drive. A PDF titled Distribution Plan. It outlined where everything would go if I hit send. Not just to them, but to their clients. Evan's brokerage, Nicole's online sponsors, my dad's golf club board, where he loved parading himself around as the model family man. Now, to be clear, I hadn't sent anything. Not yet. That was the part that would keep them up at night. The part that would force them to check their inboxes, to scan every subject line, to whisper about what I might do next. Because they didn't know what I'd left them. Not yet. But the moment Nicole found that plain brown box, the fuse would be lit. And I'd already poured myself a second drink, phone on silent, eyes on the snow quietly blanketing the world outside. Let them wonder. Let them sweat. They had no idea what was coming. It was 9:43 a.m. the next morning when the first text came in. Nicole texted, "Hey, did you leave something under the tree? Like a weird box?" I didn't respond. I stared at my screen, watching the little typing bubble appear, disappear, then pop back up again like it was panicking. Nicole texted again. There was no tag. No one knew who it was from. But it had stuff about Evan, and Mom, and me. Still, I said nothing. I set the phone down on the table and went back to sipping my coffee, letting the steam hit my face like a lazy exhale. The quiet was suddenly alive with possibility. For once, I wasn't the one scrambling to fix something. Within the next 10 minutes, my phone exploded. Evan texted, "Dude, what is this? Is this a joke? Tell me you didn't seriously give this to the whole family. Bro, we need to talk. Right now." Mom texted, "Marcus, please call me. This isn't like you. This has to be a misunderstanding. We are all very hurt right now." What were you thinking? I laughed. Not out loud, but one of those silent, satisfying laughs where the air catches in your throat and the corners of your mouth move on their own. Then came the group chat, the one I'd been part of for years, but where I was usually ignored unless I volunteered to bring dessert. Suddenly, I was the star. Dad texted, "We found your little surprise." Completely inappropriate. Whatever resentment you're carrying, you need to deal with it privately, not ambush us on Christmas. Nicole texted, "This is manipulative and hurtful. Why would you do this during the holidays?" Evan texted, "This could ruin me. You included client names, man. What were you thinking?" Ah, there it was. Not, "We're sorry." Not, "We didn't realize." Just pure, unfiltered damage control. They weren't upset about what they did. They were upset that I'd finally made them look at it. I didn't answer. I left the chat. Not dramatically, no flouncing exit message, no dramatic goodbye, family. I just vanished. Let them scream into the void. Let them watch my name flicker out of the top of the screen and wonder what came next. Because what they didn't know, and what I certainly wasn't going to tell them, was that the USB drive, it was just a sample. The real files, the full archive, sat safely encrypted in cloud storage. Password protected, backed up, categorized by name and date. I hadn't even thought about sending it anywhere yet. That wasn't the point. The point was to make them feel the imbalance they built, to finally understand what it meant to be silenced and overlooked and used, then told, with a smirk, to be grateful. But the thing is, when you throw a match near gasoline, you don't always get to control the size of the fire. By noon, things were unraveling faster than I expected. I got a DM from one of Evan's coworkers, someone I barely knew. "Hey, I know we don't really talk, but I just wanted to say, I saw what you posted, or what got shared, and, you weren't wrong." I blinked. Posted? What do you mean, what got shared? I opened Reddit, just on instinct. Nothing. Then Twitter. Then Instagram. And then I saw it. Someone, not me, had uploaded screenshots. Just a few. One from the contract page. One from the Etsy logo theft. A caption below, "When you're the failure of the family, but the only one with receipts. Merry Christmas." It was blowing up. Fast. It wasn't viral yet, but it was spreading. Enough for people to start asking questions. Enough to rattle the carefully maintained image my family had always flaunted like it was divine truth. I sat back, heart pounding. Not out of fear. Out of something else. Power. For once, I wasn't the one chasing approval or begging for space at the table. I wasn't trying to earn love with loyalty or buy affection with silence. I had flipped the script. I hadn't leaked the screenshots, but someone had. Someone in that house had seen the files and decided the truth needed air. Maybe it was my cousin Jake, who'd always been weirdly sympathetic toward me. Maybe it was my uncle, who'd once told me Evan was a smiling shark. Whoever it was, they'd struck the match. Now the fire was out of my hands, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to stop it. I didn't leave my apartment for the next 48 hours. Not because I was hiding, but because I wanted to sit in the quiet, let everything unfold, and just watch. The texts and calls didn't stop. Evan tried anger first. You need to delete whatever you posted. Now, this is serious, Marcus. I could lose my license. We were just joking, okay? Grow a thicker skin. Then desperation. Man, please. I'm sorry. I didn't mean any of it. Don't ruin my life over a dumb toast. What do you want? Just tell me. I'll do it. Nicole went the guilt route. You have no idea what you've done. I could lose sponsorships. Do you think your niece deserves to have her mother dragged online? I trusted you. You were family. Mom's messages were weepy and vague. Marcus, please. I don't know what's happening. Everyone's fighting. Your father hasn't slept. This isn't like you. We raised you better. Just come over. We can talk. Dad didn't text. He sent one email. No subject line. 2 sentences. You crossed a line. You're no longer welcome in this family. Don't contact us again. I didn't respond to a single one. By the 3rd day, the story had reached local news outlets. Not by name, but the headlines were clear enough for anyone who knew us. Influencer family caught in private feud after anonymous whistleblower exposes secrets. Real estate agent accused of defrauding clients in viral thread. Comment sections exploded. Some people defended them. Others, not so much. Screenshots had a way of silencing denial, especially when the receipts were as airtight as mine. Evan's brokerage issued a public statement. Under internal review, his face disappeared from the company website within 24 hours. Nicole posted a crying selfie on Instagram, captioned, "Taking a break. Please respect our privacy." I almost felt bad. Almost. But then I remembered Evan's smirk at the table. You should be grateful we even let you come. I remembered the way my name hadn't even been spoken in that toast. I remembered sitting in silence year after year, gift after gift, while everyone else got credit for being someone. This wasn't about vengeance anymore. It was about relief. I'd carried that weight for too long, and now it wasn't mine anymore. But the story doesn't end there. Because after the media flare-up died down and the social feeds went dark, something unexpected happened. A letter. A real one. Mailed to my apartment. No return address. Inside was a simple card. Handwritten. I read everything. You're not wrong. They always treated you like a spare part. I saw it. I'm sorry I didn't speak up. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. Jake. Jake. My cousin. The quiet one. The only person who used to talk to me like I mattered. I smiled for the first time in days. It meant something. Maybe not forgiveness. Maybe not a full repair. But connection. An ember in the ash. A few days later, I took a walk through the city. I passed a toy store window and saw a father kneeling beside his daughter, tying her scarf. She looked up at him like he was everything. It hit me in a way I didn't expect. I would never be that son to my father. And that was okay. I wasn't going to keep chasing their love like a dog under the table begging for scraps. I didn't need to, because I had built something. Not just a career or a revenge plan, a life. One where I had integrity. One where I didn't smile through cruelty or laugh at people to feel taller. And as the cold wind hit my face, I realized something even more important. I was free. Free from the unspoken rules. Free from the small, smug jabs. Free from the empty praise that always came with conditions. That night, I logged back into the cloud account. Looked at all the files. All the dirt. I hovered over the delete button. Then, slowly, one by one, I wiped it clean. Not because I was scared. Not because they asked. Because I had already won. I didn't need to keep the sword raised to prove I had it. And as for the family, Evan relocated to a smaller firm in another city, rebranding himself with a new last name, his fiancée's, conveniently. Nicole pivoted to lifestyle blogging, carefully avoiding any reference to her former, perfect family. Her comments were still limited. Mom reached out 6 months later. A soft email. I miss you. I didn't realize how much until you were gone. I replied, briefly, kindly, thank you. I hope you're well. We haven't spoken since. I didn't go back. Not for birthdays. Not for holidays. But I did start hosting my own Christmas dinners. Small, cozy, full of friends I chose, people who saw me for me. And under my tree, there's always one plain brown box. A reminder, not of the pain, but of the moment I finally stepped out of their shadow and never looked back. I'm Marcus, 32 years old, and if you asked anyone in my family to describe me, they'd probably say I'm the quiet one. Not in a thoughtful, mysterious kind of way, just the one who never causes trouble, never raises his voice, and never really takes up space. My mom has this habit of calling me the helper, like I'm some kind of household utility. She says it with this half smile, like she's proud, but there's always something dismissive in her tone, like she's describing a coffee table that's been around forever. Useful, familiar, and easy to forget unless it's in the way. I wasn't the golden child. That role belonged to my younger sister, Melanie, the professional attention magnet who could blink at a camera and end up on the cover of the family Christmas card. Then there was my older brother, Jared, charismatic, loud, always had a story, and never once paid for his own beer. Me? I work in data analysis, live alone, no kids, no drama, just a well-organized fridge and a decent credit score. This story starts a couple months ago when my cousin Emily got engaged. Now, I'm not particularly close with Emily. She once referred to me as the one who works with numbers or computers or something, but she sent me an invite to her engagement dinner at a high-end downtown restaurant. My name was on the email list, under +1, optional if you can find someone. Classic Emily. Still, I RSVP'd yes. Part of me thought maybe things would be different. My parents would be there, Jared and Melanie too, along with a handful of aunts, uncles, and assorted cousins. I hadn't seen most of them in months. I figured showing up was the polite thing to do. I even wore the navy blazer my ex used to say made me look like a CEO in training. When I arrived, I noticed immediately that everyone was already seated. Well, not everyone. There was one empty seat left. It was a small, uneven bar stool tucked between the restroom door and the staff kitchen. The kind of spot where the light flickers, the air smells faintly of industrial soap, and waiters keep brushing your back with trays. My mom spotted me and waved. "Marcus, over here," she called, then added in that loud stage whisper she uses when she wants to seem like she's just joking, but isn't. "Sit there. It's closer to the exit. That way you don't ruin any photos." A few heads turned. My sister giggled behind her wine glass. Jared smirked. My dad kept chewing without looking up. I stood there for a moment, silently absorbing it all. Then I walked over, pulled out the stool, and sat without a word. I folded my napkin slowly, smiled at the waiter, tried to will the heat in my cheeks to cool. Throughout dinner, I barely spoke. I just listened as the conversation floated around me, wedding plans, baby announcements, stories from Jared's latest Cancun trip. When I tried to chime in about a recent project I was proud of, a predictive model I designed for a major logistics company, Melanie blinked and said, "Wow, that sounds complicated." And just like that, the subject shifted to Jared's new tattoo. Again, at one point, a family friend raised a toast to Emily and her fiancé. Glasses clinked. My chair wobbled. I felt like furniture, just something to lean on. I watched as Jared ordered 2 rounds of drinks for the table. My dad requested the chef's special without checking the price. My mom asked the waiter to box up 3 extra desserts to take home for later. Then the check came. A slick black folder placed neatly in the middle of the table. The waiter paused, then, after an awkward beat, set it directly in front of me. Everyone went quiet. I looked up slowly. Melanie blinked. Jared stared at his phone. My mom cleared her throat and said, "You don't mind, do you? You're always so responsible with money." I just leaned back in my unstable little stool and said calmly, "Don't worry, I wouldn't dare ruin the symmetry of your check, either." Then I stood up. No one moved. I heard Melanie hiss, "What does that even mean?" under her breath. Jared finally looked up and muttered, "Dude, chill." But I was already walking toward the door. I didn't say goodbye, didn't look back, just stepped out into the cool evening air, the sounds of muffled arguments beginning to bubble behind me. It wasn't the first time something like this had happened, not even close. But something about that moment, about the silence, the expectation, the way no one even questioned whether I should pay for everyone, it hit different. And for the first time in my adult life, I felt something shift. Not anger exactly, not even sadness, just a quiet, measured finality. Like flipping the last page in a book you've been reading out of obligation for years. I didn't go home right away. Instead, I walked 2 blocks down to a small 24-hour diner that smelled like burnt coffee and pancake syrup. The kind of place that didn't care who you were or what you were wearing, just that you wanted a booth and maybe a refill or 2. I sat in the corner, ordered a black coffee, and opened my phone. There were already messages. Mom texted in the family group chat. "That was rude, Marcus. You could have at least offered." Jared texted, "Real classy, man. Leaving us hanging like that in public." Melanie texted, "Don't be so dramatic. It was one dinner. And then, nothing. No one apologized. No one said they understood. Just a quiet expectation that, once again, I would be the helper. The easy one. The one they could poke fun at, lean on, and ignore in the same breath. I stared at the screen for a few minutes. Then I opened my banking app and stared at something else, a healthy savings account, carefully built over the last 10 years. While Jared was taking vacations he couldn't afford and Melanie was posting unboxing hauls from luxury brands she couldn't pronounce, I had been building something stable. Quietly. Alone. But maybe it was time to stop being so quiet. The next morning, I started pulling threads. First, I called my credit card company and removed Jared as an authorized user. That was a favor I'd agreed to 3 years ago, back when he just needed a temporary boost to his score. He'd racked up thousands in streaming services, takeout, and bar tabs, but always said he was figuring it out. My name was on the line. Not anymore. Then I logged into the family Netflix account. Guess whose name was on the billing profile? Mine. So I changed the password. Then the Disney Plus, Spotify family plan, the shared Amazon Prime. One by one, I reclaimed the things they had casually assumed belonged to everyone, when really, they belonged to me. Next came the big one. See, about a year ago, after a lot of pleading from my parents, I'd agreed to co-sign on a small business loan they were taking out to expand my dad's landscaping company. The bank wouldn't approve them a loan, bad credit, spotty income, but with my signature, it went through. I didn't even get a thank you card. That loan was still in its early stages, and I remembered the clause that allowed a co-signer to initiate a liability review in the first 12 months. It was rare, buried in fine print, but technically legal if fraud or misrepresentation could be shown. So I hired a lawyer. It wasn't even about destroying their credit or bankrupting the business. I didn't want revenge, not in the fire and brimstone sense. What I wanted was distance. Legal, financial, emotional. A clean break. Meanwhile, the texts kept coming. Mom texted, "This is your father's dream. Don't ruin it over a dinner check." Melanie texted, "Are you seriously cutting us off over one bad joke?" Jared texted, "You're being a little girl about this. Grow up." But the best one came 2 days later, when I got a voicemail from Emily, the bride-to-be. "Hey Marcus. So, I heard things got tense at the dinner. I just wanted to reach out and let you know that we're finalizing the wedding guest list, and unfortunately, space is super limited. So we're gonna have to skip your invite. Hope you understand." Click. No rage. No shock. Just clarity. That was the final push I needed. I opened a private browser window and started looking up something I'd quietly dreamed of doing for years, moving. A real move. Not just to another neighborhood, but another state. Maybe even out of the country. Somewhere I didn't have to play the background character in someone else's story. Somewhere I could just be Marcus. Later that week, I sent one final message to the family group chat. No threats. No explanations. Just, "Please remove me from any future financial obligations or shared accounts. All access has been revoked. I wish you the best moving forward." Melanie left a thumbs down emoji. Jared replied, "LOL okay." My mom didn't respond at all. I waited. That Friday, my dad called. I let it ring out. Then he texted me, "Can we talk about the loan thing? It's urgent." Then Jared called. Then Melanie. By the time Monday rolled around, I had 17 missed calls and 4 emails with subject lines like "Family Emergency, Please Call," and "We need to resolve this ASAP." But I was already 3 states away, sipping a hotel coffee and watching the sunrise from a balcony I'd paid for with my own money, with zero guilt. For the first time in a long time, I felt light. They weren't just mad. They were scared. And the best part? I hadn't even played my final card yet. I spent the next 2 weeks in Asheville, North Carolina. It was supposed to be a pit stop, a breather before I figured out my next move, but the crisp mountain air and quiet pace suited me. The silence from my family didn't last long. It started with guilt. Mom texted, "I just don't understand why you're punishing all of us. We love you, Marcus." Families argue. It doesn't mean you run away. Then it turned manipulative. Melanie texted, "I hope you're happy. Dad's losing sleep over this." Jared's credit score dropped. And don't even get me started on Mom, she's sick with worry. And finally, when none of that worked, came the fury. Jared texted, "You seriously think you're better than us now? You think money makes you important? You're just a bitter little worm who got lucky with a boring desk job." That one actually made me laugh. It was so on brand, so cartoonishly predictable, I nearly spilled my coffee. Meanwhile, the fallout was growing behind the scenes. Remember the business loan I co-signed? My lawyer had uncovered that they had misrepresented their projected income and fabricated some invoice totals. That alone didn't trigger legal action, but it did flag the loan for reassessment. When the bank caught wind, they initiated a formal review and froze access to the remaining funds until it was sorted out. That meant the renovation project they'd started, new trucks, new office space, some flashy landscaping equipment, was now half-finished and hemorrhaging cash. My dad had tied up their savings into the expansion. Without access to the full loan, they were in trouble. I knew all of this because one of my cousins, Erica, had quietly reached out. She wasn't part of the engagement dinner drama. She'd been traveling for work, but heard the stories flying around the family group chats. She called me one night and said, "Okay, I've stayed out of it long enough. What actually happened, Marcus? Because they're making it sound like you went full villain." So I told her everything. Not in a rant. Not with anger. Just facts. What they said. What they did. How they treated me like a wallet with ears. How, after years of being their backup plan, I finally said no. There was a long silence on the line. Then she said, quietly, "I believe you. And I'm sorry I wasn't there." We talked for an hour. It was the first real conversation I'd had with a family member in months that didn't leave me feeling smaller. When we hung up, I didn't cry. But I did stare at the ceiling for a long time and let myself feel something I hadn't felt in years. Scene. Then came the wedding. Emily's. Despite the earlier uninvite, I still received the occasional forwarded email from my mom's Gmail. Final details, registry links, updated seating charts. I guess no one had thought to remove me manually. That's how I found out Jared was giving a toast, Melanie was a bridesmaid, and my dad was covering the photographer's premium package. And that's when I decided to make one last move. A quiet one. Strategic. See, Emily's fiancé, Brian, works in marketing at a mid-sized tech company. He's ambitious, loud, and, as I recently discovered through some light LinkedIn digging, also applying for a new job at my company. In fact, he was 2 rounds into the interview process for a position just 2 teams over from mine. Funny how the universe plays its cards. Now, I had no intention of sabotaging his chances. I didn't need to, but I did make a point to mention it in a call with HR. Not as gossip, as due diligence. "Hey," I said, casually, "saw Brian Jenkins is in final rounds. Just FYI, we've crossed paths socially. Nothing serious, just a family connection. He might know me as the quiet one. But you know, full disclosure and all that." HR thanked me and noted it. That was it. No drama. No need to push. But it meant they'd dig. And what they'd find, especially the way his name showed up on some of Jared's more colorful social media posts, might just make them pause. Especially the one from earlier that week, where Jared posted a blurry photo of me from a wedding years ago with the caption, "This clown dipped on the bill and torched the family loan. Guess some people were born to be disappointments." Tagged, Melanie, Emily, Brian. Public. No filter. I didn't have to lift a finger. Back in Asheville, I finally signed the lease on a small but modern apartment overlooking the river. Clean walls, quiet neighbors, and just enough space to stretch out and think. I moved in 2 days before the wedding. On the morning of the ceremony, I woke up to 15 missed calls. Then came the text from Erica, "You're not going to believe what just happened at the reception." And as I opened the message and read what she'd written, I smiled. Not a cruel smile. Not a gloating one. Just the kind that comes when the scales finally start to balance themselves. The message from Erica was short, frantic, and glorious. Brian got pulled out of the wedding an hour before the ceremony. Some woman from his company, like HR or something, showed up and asked to speak with him privately. Next thing I know, he's on the phone pacing like crazy, sweating through his shirt. Emily's mom said they were having a professional misunderstanding. But girl, Emily lost it. She screamed, threw her bouquet at him in front of the makeup team, and locked herself in the bridal suite. They're stalling the guests with extra champagne. Jared's trying to calm things down, but you know how that goes. I almost dropped my coffee mug. Not out of shock, but from the sheer poetic symmetry. I sat down at my kitchen table, reread the message 3 times, and just laughed. A quiet, full-body laugh that came not from revenge, but from relief. I didn't ruin Emily's wedding. I didn't sabotage Brian's job. I simply removed myself from the picture and let their own dysfunction fill the void I left. It turns out Brian hadn't disclosed some important things on his job application, like his history of using work resources for personal projects. one of which included creating wedding promo content for Emily's growing influencer platform during office hours. Worse, his social media footprint, courtesy of Jared's foolish posts, had started raising questions internally. According to Erica's follow-up texts, HR had flagged the situation and wanted clarification immediately before moving forward with his offer. Timing, as they say, is everything. But the wedding still went ahead. Sort of. 2 hours behind schedule, the ceremony finally began. Emily had calmed down enough to walk down the aisle, but according to Erica, who had full maid of honor-level gossip access, her eyes were red, and she didn't smile once during her vows. The photographer had to keep reminding her to look happy. Brian was visibly shaken, whispering aggressively to Jared during the processional. At one point, he actually dropped the ring. Not even joking. Afterward, the reception limped along. My parents were there, of course, sitting front and center, pretending like nothing was wrong. My mom wore a forced smile so tight it looked Botoxed. My dad apparently kept glancing at the exits, like he was expecting someone to crash the party. No one did. But I did post a photo that evening. Nothing dramatic, just me in my new apartment, holding a cup of coffee, a stack of books beside me, and the Asheville skyline in the background. The caption was simple. Sometimes peace looks like a one-bedroom and a locked door. I tagged no one. Said nothing else. Within an hour, Melanie liked it. Then unliked it. Then liked it again. The week after the wedding, I got a package in the mail. No return address. Inside was a small envelope, the kind used for fancy invitations. Inside that was a handwritten note. I'm sorry. I get it now. No signature. But I recognized the handwriting. It was Emily's. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Over the next few weeks, the messages slowed. My mom tried once more, this time softer. I miss you. Things haven't been the same. But I didn't reply. Not out of spite, but because the weight of those words no longer meant what she thought they did. Missing me only mattered if they ever truly saw me in the first place. Jared went quiet after that. Maybe someone finally pointed out that publicly insulting the guy who used to pay your credit card wasn't the smartest move. Or maybe he finally realized I wasn't coming back. Melanie, surprisingly, reached out 2 months later with a photo of a broken lamp and a short message. Okay, I get why you blocked us from the Prime account. Just tell me where you got this lamp. I love it. I sent her a link. That was it. No further conversation. Just a clean, civil exchange between two adults who had learned how to keep their distance. As for my parents, well, I heard through Erica that they were struggling with the business. Turns out, without the full loan and with several payments already overdue, they had to downsize. My dad sold off 2 trucks. My mom stopped her weekly salon visits. The expansion plans were shelved indefinitely. But they survived. They always do. People like them, people who think the world owes them just for existing, don't collapse in a single dramatic explosion. They erode. Slowly. Quietly. Until one day, they turn around, and all the people who used to hold them up are just gone. And me? I'm still in Asheville. I picked up hiking. Got into photography. There's a bookstore around the corner that hosts open mic nights, and I've even read a few essays there, stories about boundaries, about choosing yourself, about the quiet power of walking away. No one in the audience knows they're about my family. No one has to. A few weeks ago, a woman approached me afterward and said, "That one about the restaurant, that hit. I've been that person at the table." I smiled and just said, "Yeah, me too." And that's the thing. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need to flip the table or scream or make a scene. All I had to do was leave the table and let them pay the bill themselves.